For most gym rats, leg day is the worst workout and hurts a lot the next couple of days. But did you know every time you decide to skip leg day, you're slowly ruining every other part of your body without you ever noticing until it's finally too late. You see, everyone hates leg day and always makes jokes about skipping it, but science tells us that this is one of the most dangerous things you could do to yourself. And there are many reasons for this, but one of them being that this is true because of what your legs actually are in the first place. When most people think about leg day, they usually just think about soreness, heavy squats, or how much they can avoid it without feeling guilty. But that way of thinking completely misses what leg training actually does. Because legs aren't just another muscle group, they're actually the primary engine of how your entire body likes to produce energy, adapt to stress, and regulates growth. From a scientific standpoint, your legs contain the largest concentration of muscle mass in the human body. This muscle mass is mainly the glutes, quadriceps, and hamstrings. And when you train them, you're not just working those muscles in isolation, you're actually forcing your entire system to respond. This is so important because the body doesn't adapt the way most people think it does. It adapts systematically, meaning the bigger the demand you place on it, the larger the hormonal, neurological, and metabolic response becomes. You see, exercises like squats, deadlifts, lunges, and leg presses don't just challenge your strength, they challenge oxygen delivery, nervous system coordination, and energy turnover all at once. Science shows that training large muscle groups dramatically increases the release of anabolic hormones like testosterone and growth hormone. These hormones don't stay trapped in the legs, they circulate throughout the entire body. This means that skipping leg day doesn't just make your legs weaker, it lowers the overall growth signal your body sends after training, which quietly limits progress everywhere else. People wonder why their upper body stalls, why recovery feels worse, or why training feels harder than it should. And a lot of the time, it's because they remove the single biggest system their body uses to adapt. On top of that, leg training massively improves insulin sensitivity, which is one of the most overlooked aspects of performance and health. Your legs act like a giant glucose sink, and when they're trained properly, they pull sugar out of the bloodstream more efficiently, refill muscle glycogen faster, and stabilize your energy levels. But when leg training is skipped, this system becomes less efficient, meaning worse pumps, less endurance, slower recovery, and a body that relies more on using stress hormones to get through workouts. This is why leg day feels exhausting in a good way, because it forces your metabolism to work at full capacity instead of cruising by and hoping for the best. There's also a nervous system component that people almost never talk about. Heavy leg training requires the in-sync firing of huge numbers of motor units, which teaches the brain how to deal with force more efficiently. That adaptation doesn't just stay in your legs, it improves how the brain works with muscle everywhere else. In simple terms, strong legs teach your nervous system how to be powerful. When leg day is skipped, that high-level neural stimulus disappears, and the body switches to operating at a lower output without you ever realizing it. What all of this means is that legs aren't optional, and they're not just about aesthetics or toughness. They're the engine that drives progress in every single part of your body. Skipping leg day is like trying to build a powerful machine while ignoring the engine that powers it, because no matter how much you work on the exterior, the system underneath never reaches its full potential. But there's something about skipping leg day that we haven't talked about yet, and it is probably the most important thing you'll hear in this video. Because when people think about injuries, they usually blame bad luck, age, or one random rep that felt off. But that way of thinking completely ignores how injuries actually develop. Because most injuries aren't sudden events, they're slow consequences of some sort of imbalance. From a scientific perspective, your body is a system that distributes force across muscles, joints, and connective tissue. And when certain muscles are consistently undertrained, the stress has to go somewhere else. Skipping leg day creates that exact problem, because the lower body is responsible for absorbing and redirecting expecting massive amounts of force every time you walk, run, lift, or even stand. You see, the muscles of the legs, especially the glutes, quadriceps, and hamstrings, act as shock absorbers. They control how the hips and knees move, how the pelvis can stay aligned, and how force travels up your spine. When these muscles are weak or poorly trained, the body doesn't just stop moving, it compensates. Science shows that the nervous system will always choose movement over perfection, even if that movement places stress on joints that aren't designed to handle it. This is where problems start to show up, but like all the problems we've discussed on this channel, it's always slow and not immediate. One of the most common examples of this is knee pain. Weak quadriceps and glutes reduce the knee's ability to track properly, causing excessive strain on ligaments and tendons like the patellar tendon or ACL. Instead of muscle controlling the joint, passive structures take over. The same thing happens at the hips. Undertrained glutes reduce hip stability, which shifts load to the lower back. This is why so many people with back issues don't actually have weak backs. They have weak legs that force the spine to deal with a lack of lower body control. From a biomechanical standpoint, muscle imbalance changes movement patterns entirely. When legs aren't trained, the upper body often dominates tasks it shouldn't. During lifts, the lower back takes over instead of the hips. During daily movement, the knees collapse inward, and during running, the ankles and feet absorb more impact than they're meant to. Over time, these changes become default patterns, and the body adapts to them as if they're normal. That right there is the most dangerous part, because by the time pain shows up, the faulty pattern has already been reinforced thousands of times. To go along with that, people will often overlook how connective tissue plays into all this. Muscles adapt relatively quickly, but tendons and ligaments adapt much more slowly and require consistent, progressive loading to become resilient. Leg training provides that loading, and when leg day is skipped, tendons around the knee and hip don't receive enough stimulus to strengthen, but they're still exposed to daily stress. This mismatch between load and capacity is one of the primary causes of overuse injuries, not any sort of intensity alone. Over time, those weak links become pain, and that pain becomes limitation. Leg training isn't about avoiding soreness, it's about building a body that can safely handle the forces it's exposed to every single day. Leg strength is vital for long-term health. And now that we've discussed the insane amount of injury risks that skipping leg day presents each and every day, we need to go into what science says about the long-term health benefits of actually hitting legs. When people think about leg training, they usually frame it around short-term pain or performance, things like soreness, fatigue, or how hard it is to walk the next day. But that way of thinking completely misses the long-term roles your legs play in keeping your body healthy as it ages. That short-term discomfort is why everyone always skips leg day. But little do they know, it's hurting them even more in the long run. According to science, lower body strength is one of the strongest causes of body mobility, independence, and overall lifespan. And skipping leg day quietly attacks all three of those points. Your legs aren't just there to move you in the gym, they're what keep your joints stable, your bones dense, and your circulation functioning efficiently over decades. You see, resistance training for the lower body places mechanical load on bones in the hips, femur, and spine, and that load is what signals the body to maintain and increase bone density. Science shows that heavy weight leg exercises are one of the most effective ways to prevent age-related bone loss, especially in areas most vulnerable to fractures. When leg training is skipped, those bones receive far less stimulus, and over time, density decreases. This is why hip fractures are so devastating later in life, not because people suddenly fall once, but because the skeletal system was slowly weakened long before the fall ever happened. Circulation is another piece most people never associate with leg day. The muscles of the lower body act like a pump, helping move blood back toward the heart. When they're trained, this system becomes more efficient, improving oxygen, delivery, and waste removal throughout the body. Better circulation means healthier tissue, faster recovery, and lower risk of heart problems. When leg training is avoided, this pump becomes weaker, and the entire system works harder to try and make up for it, especially as activity levels decrease with age. Finally, there's the worst one of all, muscle loss, known scientifically as sarcopenia, which just gets faster and faster as people get older. The legs are usually the first area where this loss becomes noticeable, and once it starts, it tends to happen too quickly for you to even react. Weak legs lead to less movement leads to more muscle loss, and the cycle feeds itself. Regular leg training interrupts this process by maintaining muscle mass, strength, and neural control, preserving the ability to move confidently and without fear. What all of this means is that leg day isn't about pushing through discomfort, it's about investing in the future version of your body. Skipping leg day doesn't just affect how you train now, it shapes how well you'll move, recover, and live years down the line. Strong legs aren't a luxury, they're a requirement for long-term health. All of these problems we've discussed today can be detrimental to your overall performance and health. Not to mention, skipping leg day makes you look extremely off. There's no point in having a six-pack with huge shoulders, but then having sticks for legs. If you want to reap the real benefits of weight training, you need to do it correctly the smart way. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe to my channel and comment what you think the worst part about skipping leg day is. And with that being said, I'll see you in the next video.